We're looking here at verse 16 of chapter 1 of the Gospel of John. We've just heard in the preceding verse the testimony of John the Baptist himself, in which John says, the one who is coming after me is actually preferred before me. He's greater than I am. In effect, that's John's announcement. There's been a bit of a question, I don't think a serious question, but some question as to whether the next verse, verse 16, is a continuation of a statement by John the Baptist, or is this John, the writer of the Gospel, interjecting his own comment on the statement made by John the Baptist. I think the latter of those is the only one that really makes sense. So we're going to take this as a comment made by John, which is in some ways parenthetical, reflecting back on what was just said by John the Baptist. It begins here, hoti. The word means because. Some Greek texts put the word and here, but because is preferred. So because, ek tu pleiromatos. The Greek word pleroma means fullness, and it means fullness in a very rich sense. That is, full to overflowing, as if you were putting water in a glass and just let the water overflow once the water had reached the top of the rim. That's really the idea here, because out of the Greek preposition ek to pleiromatos, out of the fullness, the overflowing fullness out to of him, referring of course now back to the logos, we, the personal pronoun, first person plural, we all, pontes, elabomen. This is the second aorist of lambano. We have all received, or we received. So out of his fullness, we all received. That does seem to make more sense if it's put in the mouth of John the Apostle rather than John the Baptist. Otherwise, it might actually be construed as John referring to himself here as the one of whose fullness we are all receiving, which obviously is not something we would expect John to say. And then finally, karen anti karitos, grace anti, in place of or on top of grace. Some have taken this to suggest that there's a contrast between the grace of the Old Covenant being replaced by the grace of the New Covenant. That's a possibility, but really what John will say in the next verse, verse 17, does seem to militate against such an understanding. I think a better view is simply to say that this overflowing fullness that we've all received of means that even as we receive grace, that grace makes us capable of receiving more grace, that in some ways the grace we receive replaces the grace that we already have, and that it's simply an increasing measure of grace that we enjoy by virtue of this one who's been described to us as the Logos, and the one who's been witnessed to us by John the Baptist.